everybody. Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I'm Michel Bryant, along with Jonna Spilbor, and I have Terri Austin here. We're packed with stuff to talk about. I will warn you, first of all, before we get started, the underwear rule is in effect, all right? Underwear all the time here at the network. I don't want any Florida cops popping in with their 5-camera production units, thinking something weird is going to be happening. So as long as we're clear on that. We have so much to talk about today. We have the case that is just beginning in California, known as the Hollywood Ripper case. Michael Gargiulo accused of 2 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder. Openings were yesterday. We are going to hear some of those opening arguments, opening statements by the prosecution and the defense. Important to note, and unfortunate in this case because it looks fascinating from the get-go, the court has decided we're only going to have cameras in there for the openings, for the closing arguments, and for the verdict. So we will keep you posted as best we can, but without those day-to-day images. So again, we'll bring you up to date on the opening statements, which took place just yesterday. We also have, of course, as I referenced, the Robert Kraft matter and the crazy case going on down there in Florida. It is an important issue. Should a video of allegedly illegal activity in a massage parlor be suppressed so that it doesn't even get in front of the jury? Very important academically, constitutionally, but it is a little titillating and it is a little bit interesting. And I'm sure those cops down there are thinking, they went from one moment thinking, look, we got Robert Kraft, to, oh gosh, we got Robert Kraft, because they are getting pelted by the defense in that case. We're also going to talk about the McStay family murder, still underway in California. Remember, that began back in January. This is the case against Charles Chase Merritt, who's accused of killing his business partner and then his business partner's wife and 2 children, 3- and 4-year-old Gianni and Joseph Jr. The motive, apparently money. The defense is finishing their case this week. The judge has suggested they're going to get it. The jury's going to get this case next week. I personally will believe it when I see it, but that is the schedule at this moment. Fridays, they're dark out there, as you know. So we'll have updates as it relates to what they plan to do next week. More things going on today, and this is in a case that's unfortunate. We've had a lot of these young child victim cases, it seems, lately. This is the case of A.J. Freund. This is the youngster. We've heard so many times a case in which the parents or the caregivers lament to the press, where's our little child? What happened? We last saw him this morning. We can't find him. Well, now the parents, as you see there, that's Joanne Cunningham and Andrew Freund Sr. A.J. is Andrew Jr. They've now been charged with the child's death, and it is a horrible case. It is a case in which the police believe that this child suffered really for the bulk of his whole 5-year life, spending the first couple of years in foster care because he was born addicted to opiates. Thanks, Mom. And then when he was returned to the parents, he was abused over and over again, ultimately killed, the prosecution says, and beaten to death and made to stay in a cold shower for an extended period of time, and died from some combination of that beating and perhaps hypothermia. Almost it's like a torture there on Guanaco. It's like a water torture this kid suffered and ultimately died. So we have a press conference now that gives you kind of a sense of what the prosecution's case is. This is the A.J. Freund Jr. murder. Some of the raw details and the counts against the parents who are now accused of killing this 5-year-old little boy, A.J. Freund Jr. There's the culprits now. I believe the prosecution has these folks identified as such. With me, Jonna Spilbor and Terri Austin. Let me ask you, Jonna, first. These become almost cliche, it seems, where we have the parent or the caregiver crying to the press, where's our little boy? And then, the next day they lead you to the grave. I'd hate to be desensitized to this stuff, but it's an issue. I mean, how do you put a stamp on this kind of case?
How do you fathom parents who beat their children to death? Like we seem to have had a lot of those cases in the press lately, and it's horrible and it's disgusting. And I guess at first, they think they're going to throw the cops off the trail, but of course the parents are going to be the first ones that anybody looks at. And Terri, if you look at the parents' background here, they're not exactly a PTA president material, Right.
We're talking about drug abuse. We're talking about, they're hoarders. That's one of their better qualities. Mm-hmm. They have a house environment that is unbelievable. There were many, I think 17 visits by a very Well, ineffective child protective services. Give me your thoughts on this case as we launch into what I'm sure will be a fascinating trial.
It's really sad that the child was put in the custody of the parents, knowing what was going on at the house, knowing that Children's Services was coming to the house, looking at the deplorable conditions, and yet he was allowed to stay there. It's bad enough that an individual is murdered. It's bad enough that a child was murdered. But when you have the parents of that child committing the act, it is unthinkable, and the poor child must have been just in horrible situation, and so it's really horrible.
Quick follow-up, Jonna. Let me ask you this. What do you think is going through the minds of those in the system when they see a child that for the first 2 years is with foster care because of addiction to drugs, thanks from mom's system when she gave birth? There have been 17 calls out to the house. Somebody just saying, I'm sure it'll be fine.
You know, you said a word a minute ago, desensitized. Is it possible that people who work in the system, who are there, it's child protective services. You are there to protect children, but do you do it so often that it's just another 9 to 5? How do you visit a house 17 times, see the deplorable conditions, the feces, the urine, all of it, and still either not pluck that child out long enough? There are plenty of wonderful foster parents in the system. How do you return a child to that environment and sleep at night knowing that the child's now dead?
Yeah, and I think it really puts a horrible light on government agencies as a whole. You know, we don't want to indict and convict all government agencies, but when you hear a story like this, you get the impression you've just painted, which is, hey, is it 4:30? Because they don't work till 5. You know, is it 4:30?
Right.
You know, can I get out of here now? I gotta
When's lunch?
move one more file from this part of my desk over to this part of my desk. It's pathetic and it's sad. And I only hope that as it plays out in this case, we learn they did everything they could.
I hope so.
Okay, guys, we'll be back and talk more about this case and others. We'll be back with more on the Law&Crime Network. Stay right where you are.